this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Captain Jack. One more time. Dreads need to come closer. Okie pokey, weirdos. Reverie Cosplay 98 at your service. If you'd like to see how I made my Captain Jack Sparrow costume on a budget, stick around. The first thing I do with a major character like this that I wanted to be as accurate as possible for, I do a lot of research. The coat I thrifted for $13. It was originally a very light tan. So I dyed it with some Rip dye and made it a darker brown. It also came with a furry lining that I ripped out, and I just didn't bother to hem this because I wanted things to be shredding and falling apart anyhow. Now for how I made the hat. This hat is actually from Dollar Tree. Red band not included because this is my Luffy hat. It turns into this by making donuts of thrifted fabric that I got for $6, draping them over the brim and under the brim, hot gluing them down. As you can see, it's starting to come up because it's been a couple years. And then this part was a struggle. At first I made a circle and tried to put it over, but it just wasn't sitting right, so I cut that circle into little triangles. I cut that circle. What the heck are you doing? I cut that circle into little triangles, and that turned out much better. Of course, you can still see the seams because of how the pattern lays, but I wasn't too worried about that because it's Jack Sparrow. Everything is a mismatched hodgepodge of mess. You can see right here where the donuts end and the top circle and little triangles begin. I hand stitched pieces to make it look more like a handmade hat from that time period, and then I folded the sides in with a hand stitch to get it to stay. Fold in one side, fold in the other, pull in the back, and then you have a tri-corner hat. For his sash, I took plain white fabric that was fraying and giving me a whole bunch of trouble for any project that I used it for, and thought, hey, it could be okay with fraying with this one. Made a nice, ridiculously long strip, and then I painted it with watered down acrylic and some watercolor. I stained it with tea. The red bleeding here wasn't too much of a problem since this sash had to be a hot mess. And then I cut holes in it, and I used that same brush from doing the wig to rough up these holes and rough up the edges of the sash. I also used some sandpaper to rough it up, but the brush did better. As for accessories, this cool goblet I got from Dollar Tree. This strap of fabric that he wears around his hand and wrist is made out of the same fabric that I used for the sash and painted in the same manner as well as frayed in the same manner. Johnny Depp had a story behind every single little trinket that Captain Jack Sparrow wore. From what I read, this piece actually comes from a piece of a woman's dress that Jack Sparrow once spent a night with. This is ribbon I bought from Dollar Tree and magnets that I got from Walmart. And I wrapped this piece around my wrist for some extra little shinies. For his rings, I made them out of model magic. I did a whole bunch of research on what his rings looked like so that I could emulate that. You can just thrift some rings so that they look similar. I am just very picky about how accurate my costumes are to the character. Otherwise, just grab a whole bunch of random jewelry that's in your collection. Something like your basic copper, gold, or silver chains. These I got from Walmart, and I added this little charm myself, gifted from a friend. I picked this bracelet up off the ground. Gotta love free finds. This necklace I made myself, mostly from beads from Walmart. And while this pocket watch is more steampunk, having a ridiculous amount of extra little trinkets on you as a swashbuckling pirate is very helpful and adds to the atmosphere. This was gifted to me from my grandmother. Belts! Belts! Belts!
lots of belts.
As for belts, all of these are thrifted except for
this one. There's random thread on there, of course there is, because it's me. It's actually from Walmart, about $7. Sadly, fast fashion, but I needed a belt that was big enough to go all the way around my shoulders and my chest, and I hadn't thrifted one by the time that I wanted the costume done. Otherwise, all of those were thrifted. In the pictures, you can see me wearing this one, a braided rope belt, thrifted for what I believe was $3, and occasionally this one. It's got a nice texture to it, and I believe this one was $6. But I also have these belts so that I could have an example for you of all the other belts you could thrift. It's easy enough to go to a thrift store and find beaten up old brown belts that work really well for any kind of pirate or steampunk look. This one doesn't even have a buckle, so you have to tie it around yourself, which also works really well for pirates because they just make do with what they got. For the shirt, I thrifted this blouse for about $4, and it was an off-white, but I actually stained it with tea. Staining it with tea gave it the effect of looking dirty and grungy for a pirate costume, especially Captain Jack.
Now the boots were an interesting experiment. I started with these as a base, but he has those big cuffs on his boots, so I had to figure something out. Luckily, I thrifted this fabric for $5, dyed it with acrylic paint so that it was a little more yellow and closer to the color of these boots, made a craft foam base, Dollar Tree craft foam, tee-hee-hee. Hot glued the edges all the way around, except for the rounded corners. There were some spots where I wanted rough edges, so I left those. And this flap doesn't matter if it's showing, because if you saw the Velcro here, it folds over and Velcros right there. That is for the top of my leg, and this lies against the boot. And then you have a cone shape sitting on top of the boot. Ta-da! For the makeup, I drew on the mustache like I did with my Drag King video. And his goatee is right here. I made this out of the same kind of hair I made the wig out of. I braided the hair. Focus. Zoom. Focus. Hello. Thank you. I braided the hair, dry brushed the pony beads to make them look a little dirtier. I have elastics holding everything together right there. I also tied the hair through in a knot, used liquid latex to hold them together and also attach them to my face. And the same on the other side. Again, lots of research to know what colors to put on the ends of his goatee. As for the rest of the makeup, I will be putting descriptions in the link below, so that you can look at other people's tutorials since I'm not all that masterful at makeup. But I did do the raccoon eyes, like Avril Lavigne.
Well, I don't know who that is. Okay, there's a picture of her.
With black eyeshadow. I contoured my face the best I could, like Johnny Depp's facial structure. I put in his little cross scar with a bit of eyeshadow and lipstick. I dirtied my face with blacks and browns and gray eyeshadows. And his blue vest. For this vest, I bought a blue dress at a thrift store, $7. It came with sleeves, so I cut off the sleeves, and I left the edges raw, because cut off sleeves and just leave them. That's likely something Jack would do. And with the sleeves, I made little pockets, because I like having pockets on my costumes. I actually purposely choose characters that have pockets so that I can have pockets. Otherwise, I make hidden pockets. Luckily, Jack didn't need hidden pockets. He had lots of pockets. Now, these two buttons are fake, and the way I made these buttons was using model magic and imprinting the design from the jacket. Luckily, the design on the jacket did not have any letters, so it coming out backwards wasn't an issue. It gave it a nice touch, especially after I painted them with a base of black and then dry brushed them with gold. I did cut open the dress and hem the best I could these edges, but the hemming didn't have to be perfect anyway because Jack Sparrow. The buttonholes do not have any hemming of any sort. Holes that I was hoping would rip more and fray to look more true to the character. And I used the same pants that I used for my Mad Hatter costume. This strip of fabric here is from an old sheet that my dog chewed up when he was a puppy. This is a bead from Walmart, Model Magic Clay, a pony bead, Model Magic Clay, a bead from Walmart, Model Magic Clay, pony bead, and more Model Magic Clay. This piece I actually found on the ground, very lucky find. It is a brooch that I have attached to wire and added more of those wooden beads from Walmart. The hair is from Dollar Tree. They're those little headbands, and I ripped the hair off, and then I took this brush, also from Dollar Tree, and brushed it into a big knotted mess, and then twisted the hair into dreadlocks. You can see that I have brown, black, and blonde all mixed in here because I cut the wefts in different strips and brushed them together to make it look a little more natural. And to get the dreadlocks to stay where they are, I twisted them up and then melted them with a candle. Couldn't just use a lighter, I'm not that talented with flame. I am way too accident prone. I wrapped this cord from Walmart around some of the dreadlocks because this is what Jack does to keep his hair out of his face, as well as keep important keepsakes with him. I tied it off in the back and then I hot glued it there so it wouldn't go anywhere, and it fits perfectly on my head. This also acts as a wig now. When I put the hat on top of it, the hat holds the bandana of sorts in place, and you can't see the wefts at the top of the wig. I did the same hair trick for my dog's Halloween costume. This is just poster board, and this is a foam hat that I got from Dollar Tree. Made little holes for his ears. And I cut it down the seam. Oh, look at that. There's dust galore. Anyway, I cut it down the seam and then stitched it together to make it smaller to fit him. Same fabric as my sash. The goatee is also the tie that gets it to stay around his head. My dog loves pink, so pink. Otherwise, I just used my natural hair. I do plan to shorten some of the length in my own braids because I realized that a lot of them are really long, but that was just my first attempt at making those braids. So I will be altering this costume a little bit. For a general idea of how much this costume cost, here's the tally. Again, I know it looks a little steep, but I tried to go super accurate on this costume, so you don't necessarily have to try as hard as I did. And I also costume a lot, so a number of these pieces will get reused. That blouse I am reusing constantly. One of those costumes being Jareth. The coat is actually a real coat, so it's pretty warm and I can wear it on the daily in the winter. The shoes I wear for my Mad Hatter. The belts, as I said, also work for Steampunk and plenty of other characters. The jewelry was a lot of stuff I already had or made. The hat I can reuse too. I've used it for other pirate looks and I have more pirate looks on the way. If you like this video and crafting and cosplay content, remember to subs, comms, thumbs, ding, and welcome to the— Wait, before you go, couple of announcements. I will not be posting Wednesday. Normally I do post Sundays and Wednesdays, but I have a thesis paper coming up, and I also have papers to grade by then. I also have 2 chapters to read and take notes on, 2 comprehension tests to take, 2 vocab tests to take, and plenty more, and that's just for one class. And I'm spitting all over the camera. I need time to work on school. School is a priority at the moment. So I will hopefully see you guys next Sunday, where I will most likely be. And I will hopefully have my haul from Wonderland Hearts for you. Hope to see you then. Oh, and one more thing. Welcome to the madness. Am I forgetting anything? Boop, boop. Okay. Yeah, that's really hard to see on this carpet. Nope, too far. One more time. Yeah! The hair is still in the way. Okay. So if you'll excuse me, I must shove my nose into an electronic textbook and cry.